So recently I finished watching an anime called Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions, or Haitogen Sono Grimgaru, and I wanted to talk about it. Wait. Hold up, Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions? Boba Soba. Isn't this the same Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions produced by Toho Animation? The same Grimgar released 6 years ago? The same Grimgar that countless people have already made thousands of videos about? That Grimgar? Why yes. Yes it is. So if I haven't already made it apparent, Grimgar is not a new anime. And if for some reason you haven't seen Grimgar, go watch it. This video will contain anime spoilers, so consider yourself warned. Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions, or Haitogen Sono Grimgaru, is the anime adaptation of Aojumanji's 2013 light novel. First premiering in January of 2016, Grimgar consists of a 12-episode series and an OVA that chronologically fits between episodes 2 and 3. The OVA simply introduces Mary, a character that'll be more important later on in the story, so if you don't watch the OVA, no big deal. Grimgar is a coming-of-age story that stresses struggle, trauma, friendship, and finding oneself. The story begins on a tower where a group of people find themselves in a new world without memories of who they were or why they were there. In an attempt to look for answers, the group of people move to a building where a man by the name of Brittany introduced them to the world of Grimgar and the necessities to become a volunteer, which is essentially an official adventurer. Renji, a serious and distrusting man, created a party consisting of the stronger individuals among the group of people, leaving the remaining handful of trainees to create a party amongst themselves. On the surface, Grimgar's world seems to represent an MMORPG-esque kind of game. There are dungeons, monsters, parties, and guilds, all things that seemingly play into this game-like world. And while these elements may seem as though they'd make a fun game to play, it's far from it. You see, death in Grimgar is absolute, meaning there are no redos or second chances. This is more so for our main characters who struggle to defeat a single goblin, a monster that's commonly thought to be the weakest of the weak in Grimgar. The anime does a magnificent job portraying just how feeble and inexperienced our heroes really are in the opening scene. Ranta, an eccentric young Dark Knight, fights recklessly but is overpowered and outmatched by the goblin. Haruhiro, a thief lacking in wits and combat experience, is just as incapable of fighting back. Yume, a brave and spirited hunter, lacks the skills to use a bow. Mogzo, a large but soft-spoken warrior, swings his sword clumsily, getting it stuck in a tree, becoming unable to assist his comrades. Shihoru, a timid and introverted mage, is unconfident and slow at casting her spells. And finally there's Minato, a kind and caring priest who's assumed the role of the party's leader. He's also arguably the most competent of them, and the only thing holding the group together. If there's one thing I had to take away from the pilot episode of this anime, it's that the main characters aren't special. They're not your run-of-the-mill isekai fantasy protagonists. They don't have any amazing skills, talents, or powers that they can use to get out of bad situations. There's no gimmicks, cheat codes, or BS. Looking at you. If anything, they're just people. People like you and me. Normal people trying to survive in this strange and unfamiliar world. And laugh as you do at these characters, but given the same circumstances, chances are we'd experience very similar problems. Hell, if someone told me that I had to fight for my life for a chance to earn enough money just to live long enough until the next day, I'd shit myself. I don't know about you, but I don't know how confident I am with my sword fighting skills. And the theme that our characters are only human is something that the anime will never let you forget. Time and time again throughout the show, our characters are forced into situations that all but humble them. For example, when Ranta kills his first goblin, and despite all of Ranta's prideful remarks of killing monsters and becoming a powerful Dark Knight, when push came to shove and he had to kill a goblin, he was left traumatized for the rest of the day. Or when Haruhiro and Yume cry in each other's arms as they accept Manato's death. The human qualities that every character exhibits makes all the characters seem, well, human. It's the tiny details and nuances like these that make Grimgar feel so real. There is never a time in the anime where one character feels as though they're more important than another, and it's evident in the show's ability to create an incredible sense of relatableness and realness between ourselves, the audience, and the characters. The intense connections that the series creates between us viewers and the main cast allow us to feel as they do. There's a character for everyone in the show that we may be able to see a part of ourselves in. The story hits a high point in episode 3. The characters all have new skills and improve their fight against the goblins. Ranta is now able to hold his own, Haruhiro is more perceptive and with his new skill manages to land some vital attacks. Yume has opted to learn a skill for her sword rather than her bow. Shihoru's learned new spells and is more confident when casting them. Mogzo's learned new attacks as well and is able to single-handedly overpower a goblin. Under Manato's leadership, it seemed that the party members were finally living up to their potential. Manato himself said that they've become a good party, and rightfully so. After struggling to defeat one goblin as a full party, they were now fighting and winning against 3. I mean, talk about an improvement. But the scene that really caught my attention was when Minato reflected at the party's progress, listing off their strengths and contributions to the party. The scene not only highlighted everyone's respective roles and strong points, it also perfectly set up for Haruhiro's character development. This is because while Minato praises everyone and tells them what makes them all so great, he doesn't say anything to Haruhiro. This leaves Haruhiro and us the viewers wondering, what about him? The mood of the anime seemed to take a different direction after episode 4. While trying to flee an enemy ambush, Minato is struck by a bolt shot by one of the goblins. This wound later kills Minato, leaving everyone in the party distraught and depressed, wondering what'll happen to them now. The scene where the party brought Manato's body back to the monastery really struck a chord with me, as they saw their friend and leader laying lifeless in front of them. Everyone felt helpless. There was nothing they could do, and for our heroes, it was a wake-up call, a reminder that life and death is separated by a very fine line. A solid combination of Yoshimasa Hosoya's superb voice acting, impactful music score, and beautiful watercolor-like illustrations perfectly embodied all the emotions that I felt during that scene. While everyone was affected negatively by Manato's death, Haruhiro seemed to be the most burdened by it. Before Minato died, his last words were, "Sorry, I leave the rest to you," and those words have haunted Haruhiro since. Not knowing what his own strengths were, Haruhiro was conflicted and worried that he wouldn't be able to live up to Manato's legacy. Manato's death made Haruhiro realize just how many responsibilities he took on as the party leader, a realization that him and everyone else took Minato for granted. When things began settling down, Haruhiro felt that their party wouldn't be able to continue without a priest. Some things led to another, and he decided to recruit a new priest, a girl named Mary. Mary was a reserved, cold, and sparing priest. Initially, she refused to fight on the front lines and disregarded Ranta's remarks to heal his light injuries. It seemed no one in the party could communicate with Mary. This tension created an awkwardness between Mary and the rest of the group. However, as Haruhiro and his group dug into Mary's past, they found out that Mary wasn't the merciless priest they all assumed she was. Turned out Mary used to be part of another party, and like Minato, would heal her members even if the injury was very minor. One day, while Mary's former party was clearing a dungeon, most of her party was killed. Mary simply suffered from her past and trauma of losing her friends, a feeling that our current heroes knew too well. Mary gradually opened her heart to everyone and learned how to smile once more with her newfound friends. Towards the end of the series, the party decided they should switch up their hunting spot. The place they decided to hunt, Cyrene Mines. Coincidentally, this was also the place where Mary's former party was killed by Death Spots, a giant kobold, essentially the equivalent of a boss monster in a dungeon. In the mines, the party was able to find Mary's late comrades, and after an intense battle, released them from the curse of the No-Life King, which turned corpses into walking husks of their former selves. Afterward, we listen to Haruhiro as he monologues about the inevitable end that all living things must face. No matter which path you've taken or come from, no matter what things you felt or thought about, no matter the things you've wanted to forget or wanted to remember, there's an end to everything. Even at the climax of the story where Haruhiro is forced into a one-on-one fight against Death Spots, despite knowing that the end to all living things is turning back into dust, he fights. He fights a battle of life and death. He fights because he knows that only when he gives up, he'll truly die. He fights because he's still alive. He fights because he wants to continue living the life that he created for himself and his friends. The thing I love about this anime is that while the main protagonist is Haruhiro, and we see the story transpire through his eyes as the narrator, it's everyone else's story just as much as it is Haruhiro's story to discover himself and how to become the ideal leader. It's Ranta's story to discover friendship, Moguzo's story to discover importance, Shihoru's story to discover confidence, Yume's story to discover family, and Mary's story to discover forgiveness. Hai Togen Sono Grimgaru is a coming-of-age story that stresses struggle, trauma, friendship, and finding oneself. It's a story that presented itself to be so outlandish, yet so close to reality at the same time. The themes of never giving up and living to see tomorrow is ingrained at this show's core. I think this anime really opened my eyes to things that I didn't notice before, things that define how human and individual truly is, how we only see what's on the outside and ignore the inner struggles, trauma, and grueling journeys that everyone has. And with that, I'm concluding the Brilliance of Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe for more videos like these. This has been Boba Soba, and I'll see you in the next one.